Southwest ended the cattle call, more on resort fees. Mark's going to Bermuda and all the headaches that go with that. All that coming up on the Travel Show. Welcome to MTM Travel.
Won't be flying Southwest there.
Well, Mark, this is a big week in aviation as Southwest Airlines became the last airline in the United States to go away from open seating. And now you have assigned seats when you fly Southwest Airlines.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, this is what people have been begging for years, all the Southwest haters. But the Southwest loyalists, I don't think wanted this. I think they kind of liked the open seating, and they had a true fandom, and they were the most profitable airline, or the only one that was profitable for decades long because of that fandom, to the point that even when there was a COVID, people were like sending them money as, oh, hey, you guys have been so good to me over the years. Here's some money, which is crazy. I don't understand. Don't ever give a corporation your money just because. But they made these changes, trying to recoup more money or bring in more revenue, because they did lose money in the last year or two. So it'll be interesting to see. Do they lose those loyalists? Do they just kind of complain and gripe but get used to it? Do they end up liking being able to pick their seats, or are they just annoyed they have to charge? They get charged for it now.
I was reading a CNBC article where the author was on the last flight of Southwest on the old system, and they were talking to passengers. And some passengers, usually the younger ones, are excited about this. They just want to know it. And then, the older loyalists, they're not happy about it. So I feel like their customers are all over the place. Southwest is selling this as it's better for customers. This is what customers want, but they're selling it to the stock market as we're going to generate billions more in revenue. And indeed, that has been the case. Southwest's stock is up more than 26% over the last 12 months with all of the changes. As a reminder, they also did away with bags fly free, which was huge, right? The 2 free bags was such a part of their culture and their brand. And between that and the open seating, is it really even Southwest Airlines anymore?
No, it's just every other airline. I mean, they're adding first class seats, which was never a thing. That was always our buddy PDX Deals guy's favorite joke. Every seat on Southwest is first class because they're all the same. But we'll have to see. Does this draw in those people that were flying other airlines? I've always been one to fly Southwest when it's nonstop and it's just way cheaper than everybody else. Over the years, that has become less and less the case. Usually there's a connection, or it's just super expensive compared to other options. So I don't fly them ton, maybe once, twice a year, similar to what I fly Spirit. So when it makes sense, I'll get on there. I didn't love the open seating. I didn't mind it if you knew what to do. I just hated having to check in. I know you could pay the early bird, which is now basically paying a seat fee. So I guess it's the same setup as it would have been. But I just hated trying to save that money, and setting an alarm at like 7 a.m. while you're on vacation just to check in for a stupid flight was so annoying.
There's a couple of good sides of this. One is you're not going to have 8 million people in wheelchairs, most likely, for a lot of flights. And that had become really ridiculous in the last few years. And so this will do away with that. Southwest does say that 80% of their customers preferred an assigned seat in their polling or whatever. But again, this is really going to drive billions of dollars of revenue. The stock market likes it. And again, it just makes them like every other airline. And maybe that's what you want. But we've seen in the travel space, covering this for such a long time, that unique relationship. And you talked about people wanting to send them money, that unique relationship that people had with Southwest. And why would they have that relationship with this airline anymore, given not only the changes, but also we know the people in charge, they're purely looking at profit. They're purely looking at this from the investor perspective. In the end of the day, if an airline gets you to where you need to go, I say fly them.
Hey, investment firms ruining companies one by one. That's an American pastime. Twin Peaks just filed bankruptcy because some investment company bought them, leveraged them to the hilt, pulled the money out, and then went, oh, we're broke. And this has happened time and time again. And hopefully it doesn't happen to Southwest. Hopefully they pump up the stock and sell it, and somebody comes in and actually runs it like an airline, that the way it should be. But we'll have to wait and see on that.
I did see some people sharing that they were getting auto-assigned middle seats too, with a conspiracy that if you're solo, they're just going to put you in a middle seat no matter what. One good strategy that I've used on other airlines is waiting until very close to check-in. Sometimes you can get better seats, but we'll see as the time goes out what their system is, how it works. But in the meantime, pay up or sit in the middle seat is basically the answer.
Yeah, I'm curious once we hear all their boarding procedures, if they use that the polls they had there for boarding at all, or there was rumors that they were going to board people that had aisle seats last, so you might not have overhead space. I wonder how that all ends up shaking out.
Yeah, so if you're flying Southwest, let us know down in the comments. But this is a huge deal. What do you think? I mean, we've been talking about these changes for years. We've talked about the other low cost carriers, how they're moving in the same direction towards adding first class. You know, basically, everybody's turning into the same thing where you're going to have restricted legroom, more legroom, some sort of a first class product. And welcome to 2026. But we did want to follow up on resort fees. We talked about New York City Mayor Mamdani's pledge, or actually his order to ban resort fees in New York City, but also for New Yorkers traveling elsewhere, and what effect that would have. And we got some comments, some interesting comments that you wanted to follow up on, basically saying that if you eliminated resort fees, you argued that it would make prices go up. And some of the people in the comments didn't think that was true.
Yeah, and I think this is just the nature of the business, and that's why we both have been long proponents of let's just have that final cost, whatever it is, make sure it's on there on the search page, not on like the booking page, because when you search on these websites and it says $150, similar to Ticketmaster, hey, you can get these tickets for $39. Then when you get to the final screen, it's like, oh, the $39 is really $89. It just feels kind of like misleading and an issue, and you're not comparing apples to apples all the time with these hotels. So I don't care how they break it up, what the fees they use, how they say that this room is $200. However they get there, but we just need to know it's going to be $200. And I think that if they get rid of resort fees, let's say this $200 room, and I use this as an example in the comments. Let's say there's a $200 room with a $50 resort fee included in that $200. Let's say the other 150, 80% of it goes to the hotel, 20% of it goes to the booking agent, the portal, the shopping portal, the OTA, the bank portal when you use your points. Like there's all these different things, a travel agent. There's all these different ways that the hotels have to pay out. Even MGM and Marriott have a partnership in Las Vegas. When Marriott books it, it's a higher rate than you book it on MGM because they're giving a kickback. So that already is an example of driving up prices. So let's say 20% of that 150 goes to whoever's booking it, 80% to the hotel. That's a net $170. To get the same net $170 with no resort fee, where you're giving an 80-20 split, you now have to charge like $212. So the price is going to go up. They're not going to take less money. If you get rid of resort fees, I think that just will end up paying more because it will go to the consumer to cover that extra bit that's going to these booking agencies.
And one of the comments argued that OTAs make everything more complicated and they should be banned. And maybe in a perfect world, that's the case. But do you think these hotel companies pay these OTAs because they're worthless? No, they're driving a lot of business. Expedia, for example, is a huge company. And not only that, but every bank has their own travel portal. It's a big business for them, and it drives travel. That's why they have these OTAs. The hotel owners, the travel owners, they want these other websites to drive business to them, which is why they pay the commissions. And I do wonder, like, somebody should write a book about this. Who invented the resort fee in modern times? Because it is the one thing that people can't seem to get past is that a resort fee charges for certain amenities that they don't always deliver or that you don't want. Let's say they're giving you free internet. That was a big one forever. And, you know, maybe you don't want that, or I don't know, access to the pool or the gym or whatever it is. And that you could say, well, I don't want that stuff. Take this off. And I think that that's sort of a common sense thing, but I think it just fails to realize that what resort fees are just an added, I don't know, fee onto the thing, and just look at the total price and move on with your life. That's what I would say. That's why we've sort of evolved. I used to think resort fees should be banned. Now I just think total disclosure works. It makes the market, I don't know, even and fair. And it also works within the current system as it is.
Yeah, and you did an article on Miles to Memories years ago showing, I think it was like a 4-year difference between Vegas, and you looked at the prices before resort fees and prices after resort fees, and they were basically flat. And that was with the resort fee included. And they were able to keep it flat, even though there was inflation, there was cost of living increases, all that stuff. They're able to keep it flat because more of that percentage was going to the hotel. I mean, we did a Sahara video on the Vegas side of things. They kicked out Marriott. They paid them money to get them out because it just was what they had to pay them as a proportion of the room booking wasn't worth it to them. It wasn't driving enough business. And then we see on the other side of things, MGM saying they are driving it more. It's higher rates than we even expected. So it does depend on the partnership, but these partnerships aren't going away. These shopping portals aren't going away. They're driving revenue. These OTAs aren't going away. It's a way that they can sell empty rooms. So we just have to deal with it, and I think disclosure is the way to do that. It shouldn't drive up any costs towards us, but it makes it a fair game between all the different hotels out there.
So yeah, in a perfect world, resort fees should be banned, but that's not the world we live in, and there's just a lot more that goes into it. And we've been studying this for years, covering it for years. And I would certainly say that if you banned resort fees, I don't think prices would go down. Let's just say that I don't see any world where they go down. I don't see how that works. And even when you lower prices and you ban things, we see this elsewhere. We saw this with food increases, right? The prices of food went up, and when the prices went back down, the food providers didn't lower the prices. So the fact that you think that hotels are just going to suddenly lower their rates by a resort fee or something, it's just not real. It's just not what's going to happen.
No, every business takes advantage of that. We had talked about the linen company I worked for last week, and when cotton was super expensive, we had to raise the prices of towels, and because it was costing us a ton to buy them. And they're like, "Hey, we'll drop that price," or fuel when fuel went up, we'll drop that fuel surcharge when it goes back down. Neither one was ever dropped. It was just stuck there. Even when the prices adjusted, it was just on the bill. Once you get it on the bill and they accept it, you're never taking it off.
Yeah, exactly. So chime in. I mean, we're glad with this discussion. We're happy if you disagree with us. Sometimes the comments get a little personal. That's not always the nicest way to discuss with us or to talk with us. But if you disagree, yeah, share your opinion down below what you think. We love to discuss this stuff. But you wanted to talk about reminding people to check their bookings because, yeah, prices go down. This is something that the average traveler or the average person never does, right? You book something, set it, forget it. You never go back to look if the price goes down, but it goes down a lot of the time.
Yeah, and this is talking to myself because I'm terrible at this, and just in the last 3 weeks, I had two cases of it. Where one, I was too late. It was a hotel booking with Hilton. It was right after Christmas. We went out for my wife's birthday, just like mid Michigan, and I think I booked it for 50,000 points, something like that, and didn't think anything of it. And I'm so used to, when we first got into the beginning, when we first got into miles and points, there was set rates for everything. So you booked the hotel, you got it. It was a standard award rate. There was no fluctuation there. And now there is. Everything's based on price. It's dynamic. So you should go back and check. And I need to start doing this more often. I ended up looking like the day of arrival just because we had some friends that might meet up with us. I was like, all right, if they go out and they want to get a room, let me see how much it is. And it was 11,000 points cheaper. And I was kind of pissed that I didn't check it 2 days earlier because I could have canceled and rebooked and saved 11,000 points. It's only like $50, not the end of the world. But this morning, we're going to Florida this weekend. Coming home Sunday, our flight out was out at 8 a.m. And I just wanted to check to see if I could like get a later flight, maybe 10, 11 a.m. So we don't have to get up at 5:30 or 6 in the morning. And I pulled it up on AA, and all of a sudden I see all these flights for 9,000 points a person, and perfect timing that I want. And I had paid 14.5 a person. So that's 22,000 points saved just on that 10 minutes of looking. So I need to do this for every trip, every so often, just poke in there, see what's going on, because with dynamic pricing, you never know. It could drop down if they don't have the bookings that they thought they would.
And that's a great point because in the past, this was always good advice for cash bookings, especially at like hotels and stuff. Airfare, obviously, you couldn't go back and change it, but it was, always to check the rate on the hotel. But if you booked with points, it never would change. And then now that's just not the case anymore. And I don't, I'm not trying to say that I'm perfect at this or good at this at all. And I think it's just a good reminder because now everything is basically dynamic. Awards, with flights, you can cancel very easily and rebook. Hotels, obviously, the same thing. And yeah, how many thousands of points are we throwing away?
Yeah. I mean, the one I wouldn't check all that much is Hyatt. I don't feel like they change their award chart all that often, so I don't worry about that. But everything else, yeah, just go. Maybe set a reminder for every trip, like 3 months out, 1 month out, 1 week out. Spend the 5 minutes. If you get one, like this 22,000 miles, AA miles I saved, that's 300 and some dollars that's well worth it. If I just did it 5 minutes per trip every year and I get one of those, that's worth my time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a matter of doing it. And then with all the other little 5 minute things that we have
Yeah.
when it comes to this hobby, how do you get it done? And then it depends on how many trips you have too. You know, you have a lot of trips, so you do travel a lot. So I guess that makes sense. But for people with a couple trips, it makes even more sense because you're not, you know, some people are traveling every weekend and that's a lot of bookings and it gets to be overly complicated. But if you only have a couple trips a year, especially the big ones, and especially like in your case where you have like more than one person, it's a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know that I'd check too often on flights for just me. I I should. I mean, it's all it's all relative if you have the time. I think it's just getting a system set in place, like I said, the calendar reminders or something like that. Once you get kind of used to it and you do it for each one, it will just be like secondhand nature and you can blow through it fairly quickly. And all I did today was looked at Alaska first and then I looked at American second and that nothing really popped on Alaska that was any decent pricing and then pulled up American because you just never know and I was surprised, and now this is a reminder to me to do it more often. I'm going to do it for try to do it for every trip this year.
And you know, we talk about the downsides of dynamic pricing and stuff like that, but one of the good sides has been American, and they have often have these good deals on awards, the Saver Awards, if you can get the right city pairs and stuff. But oftentimes you're paying less than you would have a few years ago.
Yeah, I think American's been the best, and I forget somebody just did that or posted that on Twitter or something. They were updating all these old guides, and the only one that they noticed that actually seemed to be better with dynamic pricing was American. Everything else kind of got more expensive. But yeah, what was it? 12.5 or 12,500 miles was their standard award rate for all the flights. I book so many flights at like 5,000, 7,500, 9,000, 8,000, well below the 12.5. Most of my AA bookings, especially if it's like a 2 to 3 hour flight, are cheaper than it would have been 5, 10 years ago, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, back then I used to do most of my flights with Avios. I would book with
Yeah.
Avios, you know, 4,500 Avios or 7,500, depending on the distance. And of course, 2-for-1 transfer bonuses and all of that. But still, yeah, the deals today are pretty good, even compared to the past on AA, depending on obviously the route. And then there's sometimes you look and then the prices are insane.
Yeah, there will be times where I'm trying to get home from Colombia, which we're going to this summer, and I booked. I think we talked about this in a previous episode, but I booked down there fairly easily in first class for a very good award price on Alaska, I believe. And coming back, it's like 80,000 miles a person on AA and economy, and I don't know what's going on. I can't. I check every so often. I ended up booking a Delta flight that I don't love, and just to lock that in, but I'm still waiting for them to realize nobody's paying these prices. So you just never know. Sometimes you get a really good deal, and other times you don't, and that's why it's good to check. Last minute things do change, so always keep that top of mind.
Well, I do think 8,000 AA miles from New York to Bermuda is a good deal. And I know you're going to Bermuda for spring break and you got that all situated. I'm very jealous because the pink sand in Bermuda is incredible. Those beaches, I got to get back there.
Yeah, I don't know why I looked for Bermuda. We weren't planning on doing a trip for spring break. And I was just for some reason, I don't know if I heard like the Beach Boy song or what. But I'm like, oh, Bermuda. Let me just like do some award searches there. And it doesn't seem like in our miles and points space, nobody really talks about Bermuda. Everybody talks about Bahamas, Jamaica, Punta Cana, like stuff like that, Mexico. But for whatever reason, Bermuda's not top of mind. And this is my second time saying top of mind. I don't know what the hell is up. I'm like kerfuffling like you do. Uh, but it's such an easy flight from the East Coast that I'm surprised more people don't look at it. Maybe part of that is because they don't have a great hotel setup for using points, but I was just searching for fun and found a couple dates that would work for 8,000 AA miles each way. And that was pretty widely open pretty often. So I could book that. If I booked it from Detroit through JFK, it wasn't as good of a deal. It wouldn't pop up. Just that nonstop flight. Charlotte also sometimes has it for 8,000 points, I think right around there. So if you live on the East Coast, I think this is a great option. So I locked in those two, going back and forth, 8,000 points each way. I think it was like $155 in taxes coming back. So I kind of wanted to use all these AA gift cards I have from the Bank of America Premium Travel Elite. We have $1,200, $300 at the end of last year per card per person. So that was 600. And then on January 2nd, I did it again. So I had $1,200 and I'm like, All right, I'll burn these to do it. Didn't even think about it that it was international flight. Can't use them on those.
Yeah, it always the terms and conditions, Mark, they always get you. But yeah, a lot of people, I don't know, they don't, especially West Coasters, we never going to think about Bermuda because it's,
Yeah.
what is it, about a 5 hour flight from New York?
No, I think it's like 2.5, 3 hours.
Wow. Yeah, it's close. I just think of it. Now, of course, I visited from a cruise ship in the middle of the ocean, so I had to sail days and days and days to get there. But I really enjoyed it, and I would love to spend more time there on land. More than just stopping for the day. The beaches were incredible. I really liked the vibe. It's a British colony, very safe feeling, very easy to travel around. Good public transportation too between the towns. So the buses we took, which were very easy and good. The roads are pretty narrow, so I don't know about driving there, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
absolutely
No,
a cool
thanks.
place, a cool place to go. And then, how did you use Alaska to get your New York to Detroit connection?
Yeah, so coming back, we fly into JFK and then we got to transfer over to LaGuardia. And I booked a flight in the evening home from LaGuardia, and that was 4,500 Alaska miles. American wanted, I think, 8,000 or 7,500. So I just booked Alaska, saved some there. The problem is the flight out, and we're flying out on a Saturday. We go to Bermuda early on Sunday. So we're overnighting, and I booked the Hyatt Regency at Resorts World, which I know you've stayed at. So be interesting to check that out. Just it's the JFK Airport Hotel. Had a free night cert to burn, so we're gonna stay there. But the flights to New York, usually I can get them something decent. You have New York, you have LaGuardia, you have JFK, Delta, United, American. Somebody has something, even if I have to connect on Southwest. But I can't find anything. That's why I signed up for the Spirit Airlines card because they had flights for 10,000 miles a person nonstop that worked. The next best option is like 28,000 sky miles a person on Delta, which I'm not looking forward to spending. How crazy is that? That would be like 8,000 more miles than I spent on the other three flights combined per person.
And that's a short flight for people who think of Detroit as in the Midwest, but it's actually more, east. You're in the Eastern time zone. It's not far. I mean, that used to be a 4,500 Avios flight, for example. Yeah, so it's crazy. I guess just demand everybody from Detroit's flying to New York that day.
I think it's just spring break type of thing, and they're just jacking up right. Because I looked at even Friday night was bad, Saturday was bad, Sunday got a little bit better. If we could have flown out Thursday, but I don't want to overnight for a couple nights in New York City. So we're hoping that those miles post from Spirit, I'm able to book it, lock it in there. There was like 3 flights available at the 10,000 miles per person rate, so I'm not too worried about that. Just worried about if we get there or not. Might book the Delta flights and just lock it in and cancel it once we board the Spirit flight. But we'll have to see how that works out.
So hotels, I don't know a ton about the hotels on Bermuda, but what kind of points options are we looking at? What did you end up booking?
So the only main points program, I believe, hotel there is the St. Regis with Marriott points. I have 0 Bonvoy points. I've never had Bonvoy points. I just don't collect them. Not a thing. So, and that was like way at the northern tip of the island, kind of isolated, not really where we wanted to stay. So I'm looking at FHR credits. That was my big option. We had 4 cards. I have 3. She has 1. So that was kind of my game plan, and I found a couple hotels that would work. We were gonna hotel hop in the like $500 range. One was like 450. The problem was as soon as I added like 4 people to a room, either the rooms went away or the price went up to like $700 a night. So I was like, okay, that's not gonna work. So I used my all core points that the last bit I had from that built transfer that we talk about all the time, and I booked a suite at the Fairmont there, right in town, and it was I think like $860, $850, something like that. It only cost me 36,000 all Accor points to wipe off those charges for the one night, and then that was only like 18,000 bill points because I got a 2-to-1 transfer bonus, which is insane when you think about it. So we have the suite locked in, and I'm paying $6. Everything else covered by points. Until like 2 weeks later, I get charged for $700 on my credit card, and I'm like, "What the heck is this? I'm not supposed to get charged." So I call the hotel. If you book like a specialty rate or a sale, we charge you upfront for the one night, and then we'll take we'll credit it back to your card with your points once you check out if you don't spend anything on property. And I'm like, wait, you already took my points. Like they're gone from my account. I called All Core and they didn't know why you're charging me this. And she's like, yeah, this is how we do it. So I don't know if this is just this one hotel or if it's an issue with Fairmont or what, but I found that kind of stupid and annoying that I have to front them $700 for a couple months and then they'll give it back at checkout. I just feel like it's going to be a big pain. She seemed to know the process and why this was happening. So I'm okay with that, but it just seems backwards.
Yeah, what is the cancellation policy on the booking?
I don't know. Maybe there's no
Yeah, you
cancellation.
probably. I wonder if you booked a non-cancelable rate. Yeah, that's
Yeah, but
weird.
my
Uh,
confirmation, everything, my email says 36,000 points and $5.99. And I'm like, this is not how you described anything in any of the stuff I did. So I don't know why you're doing this, but whatever. You already have my points. I don't, it's going to be a pain. I just know it, Sean.
I would have. I'm not sure I would have accepted that. I'm not sure I would have been fronting $700 for months. I mean, that's the strangest thing I've ever heard, considering they've already taken the points out of your account and all of that. But hopefully that goes well. But what was the? So you used FHR, and I see on here that you say you booked Rosewood, which is a brand I have never stayed at, but I really love their properties. I've been to several of them, and it's an aspirational brand for me. And is this going to be your first Rosewood?
Yeah, I mean, there's a Rosewood at Baha Mar, so we walked through there and saw kind of the setup, and it looked really nice. But I've never stayed there, and we got these. I ended up booking 2 rooms. It was just a better deal to book 2 rooms instead of trying to fit 4 people, especially since we had the FHR credits multiple to burn. It dropped the price down versus booking 4 into 1 room and paying like $700 and only getting 300 off. So it was right around a little over $500 a night, and then we're getting the $300 credit. We also get the $100 property credit, and then the two-person breakfast, which is probably like $50, $60 a day. So that kind of break even at least on one of the nights. I did book the first night, the first 2 rooms, one night in my name, one night in my wife's name. I don't know if they'll give us perks for both. I'm hopeful they do well. The second night, it's both of my names, so I don't expect any overlapping perks except for maybe the breakfast to work there. But that was the best deal I could come up with, and the property looks beautiful. I think it only has something like 35 to 40 rooms, something like that, and it's up on a bluff. Looks beautiful, a pool that kind of looks out at the ocean, and then you can take a bus down to their beach club. It's Pink Sand Beach. It looks really like out of our league, so I don't know how that's gonna go.
Hence aspirational. Yeah, I mean they're beautiful. I've been to several in Asia. There's one by the Mayakoba, the Ondas there. There's a Rosewood in there, and then obviously Baha Mar, like you said, and yeah, just several of them. And it's just always been a brand that looked incredible to me. And yeah, so I mean Bermuda. I think what you're showing here is that maybe on the surface it's not talked about because there's not a ton of Miles and Points Hotel. There's no Hyatt there. That's the real reason nobody's
Yeah,
talking about it, Mark.
or Hilton. Yeah.
But yeah, but you're showing that there's a good way that you can make this work, and yeah, it's an incredible destination. I think everybody grew up hearing of the Bermuda Triangle, and you should go see it for yourself.
Yeah, and I think we're going to be there during April 1st. So that'll be interesting. Bermuda Triangle, April Fool's Day. I don't know how that will play out, but I would encourage people, especially if you live on the East Coast and you have FHR credits and you're like, oh, I can't figure out where to use these. Do a search. I'm sure there's times when the prices drop. Fairmont, the one we booked with the All Core, is on there. There's several properties. I think there's like 5 or 6 properties that you can book with FHR, and maybe you can find like a date that it's fairly cheap. If you go during the week, you should be able to get those 8,000 AA mile flights. And I will say, what I did with the $1,200 in AA gift cards, because I'm swimming in them from all these other cards. I have PenFed cards that I get $100 every year. I just went to Card Cash and sold them at 83 cents per dollar. Ended up getting like $1,000 for them, and that covered our taxes and fees for the flight, and then also covered the overage that we had for the hotels for the most part. So, yeah, I did pay the annual fee, but I'm also going to get another $600 worth come January 1st of next year. So I'll come out ahead when it's all said and done.
And that's how you can make a crazy expensive vacation make sense. I know a lot of people do that with Hawaii, which is probably a little easier. But then after a while, you got to find new places to go. And yeah, like Bermuda was never on my radar. And like I said, I totally enjoyed spending the day there, and I can't wait to go back. I sailed there though.
Did
That
you?
was the scary part, was being on the ocean.
Yeah. Yeah, wide open, nothing around. But did you go to the? I'm really excited to go to the Beach Glass Beach. Did you go there where they have just like tons of beach glass wash up?
Yeah, I think that's the one where it has the pink sand and stuff, the famous beach there. But I don't know. I don't. I'll have to look
I
up
think
the.
there's lots of pink sand beaches. I don't. I'm sure there's
No,
one
I
that's
went
more
to the more
famous than the
famous.
other.
There's like one
Yeah.
that's really famous, and it's the biggest one. I just spent like hours like floating around the ocean. The sand is so soft. Yeah, just the beautiful water. I mean, oh my god, so nice. I can't wait to hear how that goes for you. And in the meantime, let us know in the comments what you think about Bermuda. Have you been there? Where did you stay? What did you do there? Switching your flights, rebooking stuff. Southwest and the boarding call. Have you had experience with that? Do you have an upcoming Southwest flight? And then, of course, resort fees. Should they be banned? Shouldn't they be banned? Be polite down in the comments. Tuesdays, we do this travel show. And then on Thursdays, we have our miles and points show, plus Monday, Wednesday, and Friday over at MTM Vegas for all the Vegas fun and happenings. Thanks so much for watching. Talk to you next time.
Have a good weekend, everybody. Have a good weekend.